Did you know that there's one thing that your gut needs every single day? And most Americans are barely getting half of it. Without it, your colon has a really hard time protecting itself against from inflammation, leaky gut, even cancer. So today, Dr. Saunders is going to tell us exactly what that is, how much of it we need, and then the fastest way for you to start getting more of it. So that's a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today. So think about that for a minute. So what is it that we are barely getting half of? But before we dive in, I do just want to remind you that this webinar is for informational and educational purposes only, and this is not intended to be a substitute for your personal medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of a physician or other qualified health provider with any questions that you may have regarding something that you hear. All right, so Dr. Saunders, tell us what is what is the gut's secret weapon, and what are we going to be talking about today?
Fiber. It's something that you've heard a lot about over time. And you know what? And even though you hear a lot about it, you think you know something because you hear a lot about it. Boy, it's a bigger topic than you think it is. It's really huge.
I agree. And it's something that I think we've heard about for so long, and you do hear so much about it, but you're like, yeah, 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 fiber, fiber. I got to get my fiber. I remember my grandma, when I was little talking about, fiber and did you have a bowel movement today, dear? And all the things like, oh, I don't want to talk about fiber, but it's so important for so many other reasons. And that's where we're going to go today. So, okay. So most people think of fiber as something that just keeps you regular. Like I was saying, my grandma always asked about. But you've written, actually, Dr. Saunders, about it doing something much bigger in the gut. What is really going on in the gut and with fiber?
With fiber. Okay. So fiber is what feeds your good bacteria. And so if you don't have fiber, you don't get those good bacteria. And if you don't get those good bacteria, what do you get? Well, you get inflammatory bacteria and you get inflammation. So then you have chronic inflammation in the intestines, and then you have chronic inflammation all over your body. In fact, there are whole books written about just the fiber in your gut, creating certain bacteria that affect how your brain works. So your brain is like intimately connected to your colon. Think about that for a couple of minutes. And why is that so important? Well, if if your brain is functioning well, then everything is going to function better. And so if you and everything else, like the liver will detox better if you have the right kind of gut bacteria. Your spleen will clean your blood out better. You won't get clots in your blood as easily because there's less inflammation. Your blood vessels have a lining in them called a glycocalyx that repairs if you have the right bacteria. If you don't repair that, and you get what? Atherosclerosis. And what's that? Heart disease, strokes, all the things you worried about that we're told, oh, it's a cholesterol problem. It's a cholesterol problem. You know what? It's like this much cholesterol problem compared to this much of a fiber bacteria, other kinds of things. So it's really a clotting issue as far as the blood vessels and how they're functioning. And getting fiber in your diet um, gives the bacteria something to grow on. You get what you feed. It's kind of like, the cat lady. She starts putting cat food out there, and then a cat comes, and then another cat, and then another cat. And so pretty soon she's putting like 5 bowls of cat food out there, and there's more and more cats coming. Why? Because she's feeding them. If she didn't feed them, what would happen? They'd go away. Well, that's what happens to your gut bacteria. You have to feed the ones you want because you're going to be eating something. And if you're eating stuff that's feeding bad bacteria, then you're going to get inflammation and problems.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so you've listed some things that like a high fiber diet, high fiber, there we go, diet can help prevent. I mean, Aaron, just some of the things that you actually were just listing, they really surprised me. Pick one of them and like walk us through. I've heard Alzheimer's, fatty liver. How's fiber connected to that?
Okay.
Those.
Okay, so the fiber is connected for several different reasons. So for like atherosclerosis, one of the things that fiber does is it holds on to bile acids and cholesterol and allows them to be excreted out of the body. Otherwise, they get reabsorbed into the body and they can create problems like gallstones. And you go, gallstones? How is that related? Fiber takes out the they're called secondary bile acids to allow your liver to make the primary ones that don't form stones. But if you're reabsorbing them and reusing it, you start forming stones. They start coagulating, and they form gallstones. And then you end up with gallbladder disease and liver disease, and even sometimes pancreas problems. Just from not getting enough fiber. And that's not even the bacteria part. The fiber grows the good bacteria that make something called butyrate or short chain fatty acids. And you think, what's a short chain fatty acid? These are fatty acids that are really short, like they have 3 carbons or 2 carbons, and one of them is called acetate. And guess what that is? Acetic acid. That's vinegar. Uh, and so people are taking vinegar. It's, oh, vinegar is so good for you. So they got apple cider vinegar, ACV, and we even have lean ACV. Why? Because it works. It's good for you. Well, guess what? Your own bacteria can make it, and you make it if you get the right. Actually, butyrate's better, but that's a different issue. You make it if you get the right fiber getting into your large intestine. Fiber is the part of the plant that we don't digest. And so if you were to eat cardboard, cardboard is pure sugar. There's nothing else in it. If you were to eat wood, wood is pure sugar. There's nothing else in it. So you're living on sawdust and cardboard, right? And or other plant materials. That's called cellulose, and cellulose is a OSE. Ose means sugar, right? And it's all made of glucose. And these are all glucose molecules just connected together. Glucose connected to glucose, connected to glucose. The problem is we can't take them apart. They're put together in such a way we don't have an enzyme to break them apart. There's other things like fungus that make that kind of stuff, and bacteria. So these fibers go down into fibers that we can't digest. It's just sugar, right? Go down into the large intestine, and there's bacteria there that go, oh boy, this is good stuff. Why? Because they have the enzyme to break off the glucose molecules and use them for energy. So that you're giving them energy, you're feeding them, literally feeding them by eating fiber.
It's like the animals along the side of the road after the roadkill. They're just going and getting rid of all that stuff.
Kind of
All
like
right.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you mentioned, did you say it butyrate? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, butyrate.
Butyrate. Okay. I remember you talking about a Crohn's patient whose symptoms reversed with, was it butyrate enemas? And then
Yeah.
the diet. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Okay. So it was found out that someone with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis can have a lot of inflammation. And one of the things that they're missing is the bacteria that create this short chain fatty acid called butyrate. Butyrate is a really powerful anti inflammatory for the intestines. And so I had one patient who was using butyrate enemas like every day, doing enemas with this a solution that has butyrate in it because his bacteria weren't making the butyrate. So we tried various ways of getting these bacteria to grow in his intestines. So he's taking large doses of probiotics, which is bacteria, and then eating prebiotics. and it would work for a short period of time. But it turns out that his intestines don't make something that keeps the bacteria growing there all the time. So actually, our intestines make food on top of the fiber. Our intestines make like fucose, which is a sugar that the certain bacteria can use that will kind of get rid of the bad bacteria. It's a hard problem sometimes. These people that have these kinds of um, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, um, they sometimes have bacteria that are growing there that are creating inflammation, and it's sometimes hard to get rid of them because they create a film in there, a biofilm, where they can hide. And they hide from antibiotics. So you take antibiotics for long periods of time, and it might help and it might not. You have to take other things to break up the biofilm. So things like Redmond clay kinds of things, um, uh, uh, or charcoal, th or berberine. Berberine is actually amazing for breaking up the biofilm and allowing your body to clear out the bad bacteria and allow the good bacteria to grow. So the what's needed is to grow the good bacteria. That's what's needed.
Okay, okay. And so you've talked a lot about inflammation. So does having more fiber in your gut, or not having more fiber in your gut, eating more fiber so that you're controlling a little bit better of what's kind of going on in the gut, getting the good stuff going, the bad stuff out, does that reduce inflammation throughout the whole body? Or does inflammation have anything to do with fiber? What's the relationship?
Um, Getting more fiber decreases inflammation in the bowels, which decreases inflammation in the whole body. So immune system is trained in your bowels, in your intestines, and so they're trained on what's me and what's not me. And a lot of the mediators, what stimulates the immune system to start being active and looking for infections and creating inflammation, it comes from the bowel. And so, if you have a calm intestine, if everything is peaceful and working well, then your immune system is la da da. Then your immune system, instead of being like warriors going around with swords, killing things, you would look at your immune system. If you have a calm intestinal system, then your immune system is more like janitors with brooms cleaning everything up. They're going around cleaning, 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 and you actually are cleaner. It's actually on a cellular level. It's your body is cleaner when you have the proper intestinal bacteria.
Okay, so not all fiber's the same either. So can you break down the difference between soluble and insoluble in plain English? Why does it matter which type we eat? And I know one of those feeds the bacteria, and the other one is like the little janitor with the broom, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, tell us the difference and explain that to us.
So mostly the soluble fiber feeds the good bacteria. Soluble means it's literally like soluble in water. But it's called fiber because we can't digest it. So if you were to eat like chia seeds, and some people they look like put chia seeds and make chia pudding. Why does it, you soak the chia seeds in, why does it gel up? It's because of the fiber. It's a carbohydrate, and it absorbs the water and forms this gel. And you can eat it. Um, you're not going to get any energy from it. You're not going to cut it up into glucose molecules. It's not going to give you energy. It's just going to go all the way through down into the large intestine. And then the bacteria there are going to go, food, and they're going to start eating it. So that's what soluble fiber is. And that would include, like the chia seeds, pectin. It's found in um, uh, things like squash and apples, and most fruit has some. That's the soluble fiber.
So the
Um,
soluble is feeding the bacteria, not us.
right,
Okay.
exactly. Okay. So the insoluble fiber is the stuff that's this obviously insoluble. It's not dissolving in water. It's like bran. You look like bran. It's like sawdust, right? And I'm eating sawdust. Well, in a sense, yeah, that's what it's very much like. So you get that from all kinds of vegetables and grains, and of course, fruits have some insoluble fiber. And the insoluble fiber cleans out your intestines. It that's the part that binds on to the uh, the bile acids. That gets the sweeps out everything. But it's interesting that some bacteria do uh, digest insoluble fiber as well. So it's not a all or nothing thing. It's the primary thing. The soluble fiber is primarily feeding bacteria. Insoluble fiber does feed the bacteria, but it's mostly like sweeping out everything, cleaning.
Okay. Can you give us some examples of everyday foods that are high in each type of those fibers? So, like the chia seeds, you said were the soluble.
Right, right.
Okay. What else
So
is soluble?
soluble would be like apples, oats. The oatmeal is actually a good source of soluble fiber. Most nuts and seeds and beans and lentils, that's all soluble fiber. A lot of what those are is soluble fiber.
Okay.
Citrus fruits, those kinds of things. So the apple pectin, for or any kind of pectin. Pectin is a soluble fiber, and it comes from apples. So that would be the one of the soluble fibers in apples. Insoluble fiber is whole grains. So that's where the bran, for example, if you get brown rice instead of white rice, then there's insoluble fiber. And here's an interesting thing about soluble fiber. So if you take grains and starches like potato starch, corn starch, um, and you cook them, rice, you cook rice, and then you put it in the refrigerator and cool it down. It makes a fiber called resistant starch. And it's starch just like it always was, it's starch. But because of the configuration when it cools down, it's not, it's no longer digested in the intestines the same way. So it goes into the large intestine as a soluble fiber, and the bacteria just love that one. That's a really good one. So if you make, like we used to make rice salad. I haven't made it in a long time, but so you take rice, you cook it, and then you cool it down, and you put chopped vegetables in it and everything. And it's a really good type of fiber called resistant starch.
Interesting. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about variety. Is it important to get a variety, to get fiber from a variety of sources? I mean, obviously we know with nutrition, but how about fiber specific? Um, why isn't it enough just to eat the same old, high fiber food every single day? Should you mix it up or not?
Okay, thank you. That is a great question. So there was a book written by a gastroenterologist who was so frustrated with all of his people that were coming in with ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease and irritable bowel syndrome and all this stuff. And he's like, what do you do for this? And so he's doing research, and finding out that the wider the spectrum of bacteria you have and the more different kinds of bacteria you have, the less likely you are to get any of those kinds of bowel problems. And so he said, okay, so what do we need to do in order to get a wider spectrum of bacteria? You add more different types of fiber. So it's not enough to get to say, okay, you need 40 grams of fiber a day. So you pour 40 grams of two bowls of bran cereal and you're done, right? Because you put all that bran in there and that's it. Okay, you're getting 40 grams of fiber, but it's not going to grow a wide variety of bacteria. They need different kinds of food. And so, especially the soluble fiber kinds of things. So, having a variety of fruits and vegetables is better than eating the same thing every single day. And adding different things that you don't normally eat, like having resistant starch sometimes, right? And that's something that you would add sometimes. And then root vegetables, things you wouldn't expect. Something like jicama has a different kind of fiber than rutabaga, for example. Having these different things as time goes, as you go through time, I think it's like the average family has 12 meals that they rotate through, and they don't usually go outside of that. And so if you broaden that out and say, you know what, we're going to eat vegan this week, and we're just going to have, all fruits and vegetables, and that's all. And then sometimes what's really interesting, and he talks about it in the book. It's called Fiber Fueled, by the way, that book. And he talks about something really interesting is when they switched from being vegan to carnivore. That means going like all vegetables to all meat. Their bacteria switched in one day. They were like, boom, they had a totally different bacteria. And so you get broader spectrum when you change to different types of meals, different foods.
So it sounds okay. So when we're talking about gut health and the different kinds of fiber and the bacteria and all that, so I would assume it's safe to say that getting, a variety of fiber as well as maybe prebiotics, probiotics, something that's all works together.
Yeah. Okay. So probiotic is the bacteria. And that's important. It used to be people would get probiotics just naturally all the time. Why? Well, because they didn't sterilize their food. Now everything is pasteurized and sterilized and radiated, and we do everything to kill all the bacteria. And so, we take sauerkraut and we bottle it and heat it up really hot to kill all the bacteria, and then say, "Oh, here's sauerkraut. Yeah, I eat sauerkraut for probiotics." No, it's all dead. You killed them all by bottling it. So it's not easy to get probiotics these days. Peas porridge in the pot 9 days old was
Yeah.
full of probiotics.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
What was
yeah.
growing in that pot?
Yeah. So today it's not easy. And so even our yogurts and stuff like that are supposed to, what they do? They pasteurize it for shelf life, and then they put a little drop of yogurt culture in there, and they say with active cultures, because they
Yeah,
added a
like
little
how
stuff
much?
on the
Uh-huh.
top. Yeah. So, if you make your own, and that's one of the things that's often recommended, if you ferment your own foods, it's so easy to make yogurt. My wife started making it, and this Lactobacillus casei or reuteri was the one, and there aren't any like yogurts that have it. So she started making it at home. She goes, "Wow, it makes a difference."
Hmm.
So having good probiotics, that's the bacteria, and then prebiotics is the fiber. That's all it is. So when people say prebiotics, think fiber because that's all it is.
Okay. Okay. Can you overdo the fiber?
No, you can't. As a matter of fact, you can't. You can't get too much fiber because all it does is you have bigger poops. That's all.
All righty
you,
then,
you,
let's get it
you,
out.
you'll have more stool, but not necessarily because a large portion of the stool is bacteria also. But no, there really isn't a too much fiber. Some people do get, they call it diarrhea. I had a patient that had this. We put him on a high fiber diet. His bowels got better. Everything was good, except he kept coming back and saying, "Yeah, yeah, everything's better. My pain's gone. I'm doing great, except I still have diarrhea." And I'm like, "What diarrhea? Okay, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Have you tried this probiotic?" And he's, "Yeah, yeah, I've done all that. I've done all that." I finally said, "What do you mean by diarrhea?" And he said, "Well, how many times a day do you have a bowel movement?" He said, "Once a day." And I'm like, "That's not diarrhea. What is it? Is it watery?" He goes, "Well, not exactly watery. So what is it, soft?" He goes, "Yeah, that's the problem, is that I have to use a bunch of toilet paper. Before, when I had hard poop, I didn't have to use toilet paper." And so that was his definition of diarrhea. And I had to explain to him, hard is not good. Hard
Right,
stool is not good.
right.
Soft stool is good. And he's like, okay, fine. I'll carry the man wipes around with me."
Oh my goodness. It's like, yeah, you hear people talk about the different consistencies. Was it
Yeah,
oatmeal? Was it,
yeah,
and it's like you definitely were on different pages there for a while. That's
yeah.
funny. Okay, I know that a lot of our viewers deal with type 2 and blood sugar issues, and a lot of the foods we've talked about, oatmeal, rice, some of the fruits, some of those high fiber foods are things they need to steer clear of. What do you have to say is helpful for those who are watching their blood sugar too?
Great. Yes, thank you for that. That's a great question. There is all kinds of vegetables that do not contain a lot of sugar, that aren't going to raise your blood sugar, that are going to give you a lot of fiber. So you can go through asparagus is a really good source of fiber, unexpectedly, right?
I
Maybe.
love asparagus.
I know, and broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts, spinach, and all the salads and anything that's leafy is not going to be high in sugar, but it's going to be high in fiber. And everybody says, minuscule amounts, they're tiny amounts of fiber. Well, compared to water, right? So you're eating these things like cabbage and spinach and all that. They have a lot of water in them and a little bit of fiber. But if you're eating them every day, remember, you're having a lot of different types of fiber in there, and you're feeding the good bacteria by doing that. So you're broadening your bacteria.
So they're going to want to stick more with the vegetables
Right.
versus some of those other things. Okay. So then let's just talk through if you're saying, what is it, 40 grams a day we're shooting for?
Well, that's sort of a minimum, yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay. That's our
Yeah.
minimum. Let's talk through that. What would that look like? Give us some examples of some servings and oh,
Okay. Yeah, it's not easy. So if the average American gets between 10 and 15 grams of fiber a day, then you're thinking 30 to 40 grams as a minimum. And in other cultures, you might have, 60 or more grams of fiber in a diet, because they don't have processed foods. So if you're going to try to get 40 grams plus of fiber, you're going to have to avoid processed foods. So if you have grains, like breads and cereals and stuff like that, it's going to need to be whole grains. An orange contains roughly 4 grams of fiber. And an avocado is about 9 grams of fiber. Potato is about 8 grams of fiber. And so if you think about, okay, they add up. If you're eating a cup of broccoli, you're getting about 4 grams of fiber. It takes a whole plate of salad, lettuce, to get 4 grams of fiber. So,
that's hard then.
it's
Yeah.
the whole salad plate. And so that's the way I learned fiber, was fours. How much of that does it take to get 4 grams of fiber? And then you have 10 servings a day, and you're up to your 40 grams. So, you have, for one meal, let's say you have some broccoli, and then You have some, let's see, a slice of bread is about 4 grams, right? And for people that don't have diabetes or that aren't on the
Right,
diabetes solution kit, right?
right.
uh, yeah, because then what do you add? Potato. Uh, so you can get like 3 different things that have 4 grams of fiber, so 12 grams in a meal. And if you do that 3 times a day, you can get your 40 grams. But you know what? At first, it's going to be work because our foods are not made for fiber. They take out the fiber, and
Mhm.
that's kind of the problem.
I remember there's a commercial that obviously it's for fiber because the person is like they're on the treadmill and they're eating a carrot and then they have some celery, and it's just like they're like, oh my word, trying to get the fiber in. So I'm sure it's for a supplement or something. How do you feel about supplementation to get the fiber?
When we put together a fiber supplement, we were looking around at what was available, and almost all of them were a very specific single fiber. So if you were to get, the psyllium husk, and that's all it is. It is mostly soluble. It has some has mostly insoluble, has some soluble fiber. But if you just get one thing in it, then you don't have the variety. So
Hmm.
if you're going to supplement something with a lot of different types of fiber. So that's what we did. We put together some both soluble and insoluble fiber in the fiber greens, so that you would be growing a broader spectrum of bacteria and not just focusing on just one.
Okay. Yep. And we are having a sale on fiber greens. So if you're interested, that link was there.
And so that's the point, is that if you're not going to be able to get the 40 grams, you can use a supplement, and the supplement can bring you up. The purpose for a supplement is not to replace
Hmm.
your
It's to
your
meet that gap.
it's
Hmm.
yeah,
For
exactly.
sure. Elliot asked, is there a cereal that you can recommend for breakfast that has a good amount of daily recommended level of fiber? Cereal is
Yeah.
a hard one.
Yeah, it's hard. Cereal. Okay. Uh, Oatmeal. A great way to eat oats is to eat them raw. Is to get the rolled oats and eat them raw.
Hmm.
Um, or you can cook the oats and cool them, and then you get a lot more fiber than you would in the hot oatmeal.
Oh.
And here's something really interesting in that, the resistant starch kind of fiber. If you heat it back up again, then it breaks it up and it becomes starch again, and then it's not resistant starch once you heat it again. So it needs to be cooled down and cooled. And so what I do with oatmeal is I just have a plain oatmeal. I put some blueberries in it, and then I put like a quarter cup of chia seeds in it.
Yes. Hmm.
And,
How much
and
liquid
then
are you putting in there then? Because those chia seeds,
I know. Well, I eat them before they suck out the liquid. I
see,
don't.
I like them after they've had the liquid. They're like boba. It's kind of like popping.
That's true. Yeah, I don't leave them overnight. I just pour it on and eat them. And I use coconut milk, and
Hmm.
yeah, I'll have a cup or more of coconut milk. But yeah, enough that it's not pudding, but um
I've been doing something similar. I guess I call it a pudding. I don't really know. I take non-fat Greek unflavored yogurt, so no sugar in it. I use that, and then I add in almond milk and some raw oatmeal and a bunch of those chia seeds, stir, stir, stir. And then I usually throw in like frozen blueberries or strawberries or raspberries or something. And then I let it sit overnight. And then in the morning, I've made a granola out of pumpkin seeds and all different nuts and things. And then I put that in there. I really enjoy it. It's actually pretty tasty.
goodness, that's going to have a lot of fiber in it too, and a
Yeah.
lot of different types of fiber with the nuts,
Mhm.
the pumpkins, and the oats and
Yeah.
chia. Wow, yeah, that's a lot of different types of fiber.
Hmm. Okay, so let's see. Let's get to some questions here. Oh, when we were talking about asparagus, Someone wants to know what is it in asparagus that makes the urine smell different? I mean, holy cow, I agree. It really smells different when you eat asparagus. What does that?
Yeah, I forget the name of it. It's an organic acid. It's an acid that's excreted in the urine that some people have the enzyme to break it down so that they don't have the urine smell, and some people do. And I had that issue one time when I smelled the urine. I'm like, wow, that smells weird. I wonder why. What the heck is going on? Oh, I had asparagus yesterday. That's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. So then Elliot says, I had heart surgery. We're going to do some different questions here. Almost a couple years ago, my doctor recommended to not lift weights. I want to do that at the gym to build muscle. I do cardio at the gym. What's the best way to build muscle without lifting weights?
good question. Okay. So I don't understand what the not lifting weights would be for because um, uh, lifting weights is the best way to build heart muscle. So people who are weightlifters that are like bodybuilder weightlifters or they're building big muscles, their hearts they get thick and really efficient, and they pump all the blood out, and they're really they don't get enlarged hearts like people that are running long distance. They get big hearts. They go "Boo," and they're slow. And but people who lift weights, they get these hearts that they just pump all the blood out, and they're thicker. So you do make a stronger heart by lifting weights. And so I don't, you didn't say what the heart surgery was specifically. It's a valve surgery, then that's different than if it was a bypass surgery. So if your cardiologist said don't lift weights, you might go to a cardiac rehab place and say, okay, what can I do and how do I build muscle? Because they may just say, that's like don't go to the gym and kill yourself like lifting weights. You can start off with some small weights and gradually increase your weight, for example, or something like that, and still build muscle and then also build your heart up at the same time. Unless there's something else like you have a hole in the heart or
Um,
uh,
Elliot just added two stents.
oh, two stents. There's I couldn't think of any reason why you shouldn't lift weight with stents. Yeah, that's the only problem with stents is they clot off, and so and
Mm.
that can happen in days or months or years. Um, Lifting weights doesn't affect that so much. So
Okay.
I don't know. So ask your cardiologist for cardiac rehab because those guys are going to know. The physical
Yeah.
therapists, they're going to know what to do.
Absolutely. Okay, Julia wants to know how do carnivores get enough fiber? Maybe they don't. I think Dr. Saunders.
Oh, good question. That's a great question.
Okay.
Okay, so uh, did you lose me?
You're
Okay,
back. You're back.
so that's a great question because I'm back. Thank you. There's a lot of fiber in meat that we don't digest. Also, it's protein fiber, so it's not fiber like that grows the um, butyrates and all of that. But what was really interesting is that you get a broader spectrum of different types of bacteria on a carnivore diet than you do on a vegan diet.
Really?
And so it's just kind of funny that there's a broader spectrum, and the fibers are different. So what you're sending down into the colon are things like keratin and collagen, and they're proteins and they're amino acids, and the bacteria can use them. But see, here's the thing: you're not sending sugar down there.
Mhm.
So you're not getting the bad bacteria growing because the bad bacteria, the Clostridium and the ones that create inflammation, they grow on sugar, and so if you're not sending that down there, then yeah,
That helps.
yeah.
Okay, Stephen Smith wants to know what about fasting and fiber?
Um, If you're fasting, you're not eating fiber. And so you shouldn't be eating fiber when you're fasting. Really fasting, you keep your stomach empty. That's what the benefit of fasting is when your stomach is empty, you make certain peptide hormones that cause the anabolic metabolism, and you build your body, you're repairing, you're doing a lot of stuff. And so you don't eat fiber while you're fasting.
Okay. John wants to know, is Metamucil good, and does it contain both kinds of fiber?
Yes, the mucil is a mucinous fiber, and it also has the insoluble. So it has soluble and insoluble fiber. It's pretty good. It's a good source of fiber. The problem with the product, though, is they put a lot of sugar in. So for every teaspoon of fiber, there's a teaspoon of sugar, sucrose, in it. And so it's pretty high. And then the ones that are sugar free, now you can get the sugar free ones. They have artificial sweeteners that raise your insulin level. Um, and pretty much all of them have to have some kind of sweetener because otherwise you're just eating cardboard and it's pretty disgusting. So
Okay.
when we made fiber greens, I said no sugar, no artificial sweeteners, and the guys that were helping us,
Uh-huh.
that that do the formulation. That's like a formulation committee. They go, nope, nobody's going to make.
Okay, you cut out there for that last part. They said no
Oh,
one's going to eat it. No one's going to use it without sugar or sweetener.
yeah, no one's going to use it unless it's palatable. You have to
Yeah,
make it at least so someone would be willing to eat it.
very true. Very true. All right, Lily's got an interesting question here. So, with what you've been teaching us, so then is potato salad, because of the cold potato, is that resistant starch?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Potato
Ooh,
salad is a great resistant starch.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then Rayanne, great questions today. Okay, she says, is it L-lysine?
L-lysine. Yeah.
Okay, does L-lysine play a role with the fiber, berberine, and help with the gut?
Berberine. L-lysine is an amino acid, and it helps with the gut in different ways. The amino acids are for making proteins primarily. Berberine helps to get rid of the the bacteria and the fungus. They make a biofilm that kind of allows them to hide, and so the berberine disrupts the biofilm, so that's how they help. But L-lysine isn't specific. Actually, the one you want for your gut is not the amino acid lysine. You want um, glutamine. L-glutamine is the one that feeds the intestinal lining. So all those, the gut lining, all the cells that line the gut, they use glutamine for energy, not
Mm,
sugar.
okay. Okay. Um, let's see. All right. Thank you very much, Rayanne. All right. Elaine says, I use the old method, prunes, for constipation. Your thoughts, please.
Perfect. So prunes are a great source of soluble and insoluble fiber. They grow good bacteria, and they've been used for who knows centuries for people that have constipation. But it's an interesting thing if we go back and look at the writings. It's kind of hard to know what average people did because people like people didn't just write about what they did all the time in 1,000 years ago, but going back through looking at what people suffered from, Constipation was not a big issue. It was for the kings and queens and royalty, but because they get processed food. But for peasants, constipation was not much of an issue. And yeah, so prunes are a great source of fiber.
Okay. Okay, let's talk a little bit about sourdough bread. Debbie said she started making sourdough bread. I make a variety. Is it einkorn, wheat
I
and bread flour so far. So far, both my husband and I have enjoyed this and feel better. I feel this is a better bread. My husband's dietitian was happy to hear this since he's type 2. Do you agree? So talk a little about sourdough. That is kind of the rage, and everybody's making sourdough now.
Yeah, and
Especially with type 2. Let's think about it there.
I think it's a good thing, and it's good for it's okay for type 2, but you know what? It still has a lot of carbs in it, so you have
Hmm.
to take that into account. And so depending on what your level of carbs are, you can use maybe a little bit of sourdough bread. Um, as an option for bread, I agree. I think it's a better option. I prefer it myself. I go down, there's a store just down the street from me that they make their own, and they have whole grain sprouted wheat sourdough that is $10 a loaf. But I buy it because yeah,
Is
I
it about
agree.
sourdough bread that is better for us? If you take the type 2
Oh,
part out, what is it about the sourdough that's beneficial?
okay, that's a good question. In Italy, they did a study on people that had celiac disease. And they took them off all wheat, and then they tested them. They did biopsies of their intestines, and they're completely clear. So their intestines are normal. Everything's back to normal because they were off wheat. And then they gave one group regular bread and one group sourdough bread, and they followed them over time, and the ones on the regular bread got their celiac back, and the ones with the sourdough bread did not get their celiac back. So they're at the time, this was many years ago, 20 years ago. They said, well, it must be the yeast that's the problem, that people are reacting to the yeast and not the gluten, because the sourdough bread still has gluten in it. But sourdough bread is different because as it ferments, the acids in the bacteria use the gluten, and the acids break it down. So your gluten is partially broken down by the bacteria in the sourdough bread, whereas the regular bread does not have bacteria. It only has yeast, and it doesn't break down
Hmm.
gluten at all. So that's why you get really light and fluffy yeast breads, but a sourdough bread tends to be a heavy loaf
Hmm.
because the gluten is partially broken down. So think about it. If it's partially broken down, then your stomach doesn't have to break it all the way down. It just has to, cut up what's left. And then you're not going to react and cause celiac disease. And that's pretty much what they showed.
Okay.
So so I'm not saying that if you have celiac disease, you can eat sourdough bread. I'm just saying that was a study that was done and it was a real thing.
Interesting. Very interesting. Plus, and if you are making it yourself, it's not as processed as what you're buying off a shelf. So
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
good
yeah.
benefit as well.
Three
Okay.
ingredients.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, someone wants to know what's the best treatment for a third recurring UTI in 6 months for a male in his 80s?
A male in his 80s with
Yeah.
recurrent UTI. Okay, find out why. There's a
Mhm.
reason for that. And sometimes it's because a male in his 80s, the prostate's enlarged. So the urethra goes right through the prostate, and it kind of kinks it doesn't allow the bladder to empty completely. So if the bladder's not emptying completely, then the bacteria continue to grow in there in spite of, you can give antibiotics, and that'll stop them from growing. But if you maintain, always have some urine in there, then you can just keep growing bacteria. So make sure the bladder's draining out completely. That would be a fairly common thing. Sometimes it's an infected stone. So there's a stone there, and the bacteria can hide from the antibiotic by being in and around the stone. And then as soon as there's no antibiotic, they start growing and they're just right back again.
Hmm.
So looking for the underlying cause of why it's there will guide you as to what to do about
Okay, absolutely, absolutely.
it.
All right, John wants to know, what about Korean kimchi for type 2 diabetics?
Oh, well, that's wonderful. Yeah, that has probiotics, prebiotics, and it's not doesn't have any carbs in it. So you could count that as a free a no carb, even though it does, it has a little bit of carbs, but you can count it as a free. You can put as much of that in your diet as you want.
Got all that fermenting, that good stuff going on too, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, John wants to know, is I always struggle when I'm reading this word and saying it. Is it autophagy?
Autophagy. Yeah.
Thank you. I always want to say autophagy. I don't know what I want to say. If autophagy does not occur until after 3 days, is a 36-hour weekly fast beneficial?
Oh, absolutely. Anytime your stomach is empty, it's beneficial. If all you did was, 12 hours a day, that's better than having something in your stomach all the time. And
Mhm.
so the more time you have with an empty stomach, the better. And 36 hours is great. In 36 hours, you'll probably use up glycogen out of your cells pretty well, and you may even get into ketosis by then. Some people do.
Okay. And then Peter wants to know, how do you disrupt bacteria biofilm in the bladder?
Huh. Disrupt bacteria biofilm in the bladder. In the bladder. Huh. I don't know. I wonder if berberine would do that. I don't know. Berberine might be an option. I know that one of the urologists in town who's thinks outside the box. He's really good, and he puts a catheter in the bladder, puts DMSO in there for people that have like interstitial cystitis, chronic bladder problems. And that seems to work. I wonder if that would disrupt the biofilm too.
Hmm.
Interesting. I don't know.
Okay. Something to try for sure. All right, let's do one more here. Lori is wanting, this is probably two, you can answer what you have time for of this one because it's a pretty broad question. She's wanting to know about insulin resistance. How do you know you have it and how to fix it? That's a big one. Just give us what you can on that.
Okay. Thank you. That's a great question. How do you know you have insulin resistance? Do the test. And there's four tests that you do. The glucose and the hemoglobin A1C. So the glucose is immediate at that moment. What is your blood sugar? And then the hemoglobin A1C is averaging your blood sugar over about 3 months. And then insulin level is that minute. What do you have? What's your insulin level? And then the C peptide gives you more of an average over hours of what your pancreas is putting out. So C peptide, insulin, and then sugar, hemoglobin A1C, the glucose. So the you can measure, and there's actually a formula for putting if you have glucose and insulin levels. There's a insulin resistance index, and it's this formula that you can put into. Well, you can look it up online, and it will do it for you. It says this. You'll just say, "This is my insulin. This is my hemoglobin A1C, or this is my insulin. This is my glucose. What's my insulin resistance index?" And then it'll tell you that. And then if you find out your insulin resistant, so I had a patient today, this morning, we went through his tests and he's normal, no problems, just like checking his annual, these are just annual tests, right? And he shows up His insulin is a little bit on the high side. His C-peptide was 2. His blood sugar was like 108, just a little bit high. But his hemoglobin A1C was normal, 5.2. So his average blood sugar was just fine. So he would have gone to a doctor and they would have said, "Oh no, you're fine. You don't have insulin, or you don't have blood diabetes or pre-diabetes or anything. You're just fine." But he did have insulin resistance. And so we talked about what to do about that, how to get the insulin down, because having insulin resistance has creates some problems. And it wasn't until after we discussed it, he goes, "Oh yeah, you know what? My memory's not working very well, and I'm having word finding problems, and I worry about my mind, my brain." And I'm like, okay, so that's one of the things insulin resistance does. So yes, you got to get this down. And so that pretty much motivated him. So how? Um, we have the diabetes solution kit, which actually works great for any kind of insulin resistance. So one of the ways is called a ketogenic diet, and that's what the diabetes solution kit is. It's more than that because in the kit we go through, what is your why, and we have shopping lists and recipes, and just guidance on how to do it. But essentially, it comes down to you're doing a ketogenic diet. Why? Because if you're burning fat, you're making ketones, and you want to train your body to burn fat instead of glucose. And so that's what this comes down to, as far as the diabetes solution kit. The other way is to fast. When you're fasting, you drop your insulin completely. You don't make insulin while you're fasting. If you just drink water, you're still not going to make insulin. So, and during that time, that allows you to burn fat. It allows you to use up your glycogen. And once you use up your glycogen, then you no longer have insulin resistance. That'll fix the problem completely.
Okay, excellent. And then Debbie says, how do you find out the insulin level?
Um, the
What test
insulin
is
level,
that?
you have to specifically test for it. Yeah, so it'll be part of your test. So your
Is it a blood
glucose is
test?
going to be, yeah, your glucose is going to be part of your metabolic, comprehensive metabolic panel. And then you have to add on an insulin level, which
Okay.
is a blood test.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Saunders. We will see
You're
you. I will talk
welcome.
to you Friday, and we will see you back here next week.
Okay.
All
Bye.
right. All right. Thanks everybody for coming today. And just as a reminder, we will be back here next week. If you are someone who is watching a replay and you'd like to join us live so that you can ask questions, please make sure that you just go to bartonwebinar.com. You can really quickly fill out that little form and it will sign you up for this and every future webinar. You'll get a reminder from Zoom each week with the link that you'll click to join us live. So we would love to have you join us. I've put a lot of links in the chat today. I just put the link to the Diabetes Solution Kit. We have a digital version and a print version. Both of those links are in there. And don't forget, if you use that code Saunders25, you will get saved 25% off of that. Earlier, I put berberine in there. He talks a lot about berberine. And I also put the link to shop for the fiber greens on our, we're having a sale, and I believe that the free bottle, if you buy 3 fiber greens, I believe you get a free bottle of Healthy Gut. So he's talked a lot about prebiotics and probiotics, so that might be a great thing for you to try. So we look forward to having you back next week. Those of you that have asked about the replay, it will be available later on YouTube. This is episode 327. So if you go to the live section, you'll be able to find it. And also, I told you last week, I'm working on an email to follow up each week if so, for those of you that want the replay sent to you. So I haven't forgot about that. I will definitely still be doing that for you all. So it's been great having you all here, and I look forward to having you back next week. Bring all your questions, and we will see you